our sage front office stars, the longest tenured front office decision makers. Take a look at this. Brian Cashman, John Mozeliak, Mike Rizzo, Chris Antonetti. But only one of those guys is stepping away from his duties at the end of the 2025 season when his contract expires and he's going to retire. And that's the president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, who's been the GM of the Cardinals since 2007 when he was a young buck. And he's still a spry man.
I know, he still looks fantastic.
He does. And he's been one of our favorites. I actually considered putting together a sizzle reel, the best of John Mozeliak at the winter meetings over the years, because we've had some very fun exchanges, John, have we not?
Yeah, and I'm blessed to be on this with you guys. Great seeing you all.
Great to see you.
Exciting times, though, for sure.
This is going to be it. This is your swan song season. I mean, first off, it's your last winter meetings where you have to make the media rounds. Are you starting to get emotional already?
I'm blessed, right? No,
I've seen that look a few times.
You know, look, I do feel like in our business right now, like doing what I do for a living, you don't need to be here to actually conduct trades or sign players. But the atmosphere, the vibe around the game, it always brings it to front page news. I mean, obviously with Soto signing last night or agreeing to terms, I mean, it gets people reading about baseball and keeping baseball on the front page for 12 months a year. It's pretty cool.
What were your initial thoughts when something like that, 765, comes across? Exactly, right? Like, you've been doing this a long time, and to kind of see it get to this point, like, John, we're not in these war rooms. We're not on the whiteboards figuring it. How do you get to these numbers?
Well, look, he is a very young player, right? So there's a lot of runway for him in his career. But, you know, look, it shows you that there is some revenues in this game that maybe can support it. But I think really what it screams is not every team could actually do that. And, you know, I do think that's, when you think about the bigger picture of baseball, that can be the frustrating part. Because the reality was, of the 30 teams, there probably really were 4 or 5 that were really serious about getting him signed.
So what do you think the long-term repercussions of this are? Because, you know, you have some young players, Mason Wynn being one of those guys. How does this affect him as far as a long-term contracts in the future is concerned?
Well, I do think, like, young players look at this and they find it healthy. It's good for markets, right, from that standpoint. But I do think teams are still going to have to understand the value of players, and you know, some decisions will be more prudent than others. But here was a once-in-a-generational type player, and now we've seen 2 years in a row these types of contracts be done.
Have you ever had a mission statement quite like this year at the winter meetings? This is a unique experience for you, right?
Yeah, it's a lot different. Like, not having a ton of meetings with agents right now. It's basically, you know, talking with a lot of teams, trying to decide what the look of our club's going to look like, and trying to ultimately move a player or two.
Is it a situation where it's kind of a soft reset? A potential move of Nolan Arenado, a potential, I know you were so fond of Goldie and what he meant. You brought him in, you signed him long-term. He won an MVP. To see potentially, well, we can keep it to just Goldie because we don't know on Nolan, to see a guy like that potentially walk out the door.
It's tough, right? Great guy, great player. But reality is we have to change the direction of what we're doing. You know, you think about the last 20, 25 years, we've had a lot of success.
Yeah.
But how you go about it and how you do it is starting to change. And so we have to get back to that model, making sure we draft well, develop well, and then ultimately augment our roster when needed. And that's really the future of the Cardinals.
Yeah, and that was a question I had about the Cardinal Way. It's something that you've talked about in the past. Does that have to change? Have you tweaked that to the point where it's a different Cardinal Way now than it once was? And how are you thinking about moving that forward?
Well, when you think back to those last couple decades, it really was, you know, Albert and Yachty. And then we went and built around it. And when you have that, that's a good place to start. And so ultimately, we have to find that type of player down below, inject them into our roster, and then see where it goes. But, you know, ultimately, our ownership is still going to support decisions. We're going to put a roster out there that's going to be exciting this year and that we're excited about, but it is going to be some younger faces.
A year ago, we saw the Milwaukee Brewers say goodbye to their manager, and he got a big deal with the Chicago Cubs. They traded away their ace right before spring training, Corbin Burns. They didn't have their all-star closer. They win the division, okay? They went in with not a ton of postseason momentum. You guys are sort of in the same boat, not exactly the same details, but no one's expecting big things. Tell us why that as you do this soft relaunch, as D-Row put it, the St. Louis Cardinals could still win this division.
Well, I think we can. Obviously, we need some things to go right. We need a Nolan Gorman to be offensively productive. We need a Jordan Walker to go up and put the numbers we think he's capable of. We need Lars Nootbaar to be the type of talent we think he is. If those things happen, we think our starting pitching's still strong. We think our bullpen's still strong, but we've got to be able to consistently score runs.
That's great. We have Ali Marmol to end our 2-hour stint of MLB Tonight. He's going to end it. So we're like bookending Cardinal faces, okay? Give me a question I should ask Ali Marmol.
Ask him who will be our 5th starter.
I will.
Isn't he supposed to ask you that question?
Well, see, I'm not sure yet either. Very fluid, boys. Very fluid.
Hey, congratulations on an unbelievable career, and especially what a run with the Cardinals, man. It's been awesome.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
And you should probably hire a TV agent because I'll be calling.
No, we did great. Sidekicks, right?
He'd be amazing.
Oh, he'd be amazing.
I know.
Oh, you guys are so sweet.
No,
We've enjoyed hanging out with you at the winter meetings. We look forward to it every year. John Mozeliak, the St. Louis Cardinals, thank you so much.
Cheers.
All right.